My favorite song. I love that. Thank you. All right. Good morning. I am Barbara Marriott, your worship assistant for today. Welcome to Pacific Unitarian Church. We gather there. Hi. We gather here to worship, to open our hearts, and to be truly seen. Here, where the simple and the elegant, the dramatic, and the plain complement one another, and we work together. Each and every one of us contribute to the beauty of the whole. Let us worship together, all genders, sexualities, politics, clappers and non-clappers, progressives and conservatives. May we root ourselves in the values of this faith: compassion and courage, transcendence, justice, and transformation, and all that. Okay, we have a lot of announcements, so bear with me. There is a PUC annual anniversary dinner Saturday, April 22nd at 6 p.m. Join us to celebrate our past and our present as we feast and dance our way into the future. Dinner is on the house. Woo. Speaking of on the house, food afterwards is on the house. Narish is trying to thank all of us volunteers and all the food workers. So it's on the house today, just today. All right. Also, this week, this Friday night is movie night. We have a fabulous movie. Thank you, Kelly, for putting those movies together for us. It is called, no, I didn't write it down. No. Tell us. Redeeming Uncle Tom. Okay. I translated it from my little thing, and anyway, it's going to be a great movie. I hope all of you read Uncle Tom when you were little. I made my children. All right. Don't forget to contribute to the bulk containers. They're outside by the welcome table. It is outside, period one. To put in your cookies, bulk cookies, granola bars, applesauce, things like that, for our Monday food service that we do. That is Monday at 1 o'clock, and we get together and make 30 or 40 sandwiches every week. Let's see. There's also Tracy's container out there for feminine hygiene products. Don't forget that either. We are having a social justice meeting after service today at about 12 o'clock in the library. Y'all come. We also have a protest every Thursday at 5 o'clock at the corner of Madrona and Torrance Boulevard. Y'all come, wear your t-shirts, and we'll see you there. Woohoo! And one more announcement on that line. Kiki is going to be selling those sweatshirts and t-shirts. They're beautiful. Actually, the sweatshirt is a nicer color. So that'll be happening too. And finally, our wonderful Abrahams, who is the most beautiful singer, Andre Bocelli, eat your heart out. April 6th and April 8th, he is going to perform at the Cal State Fullerton. It's called Street Scene. And I think he's going to do an Italian, so he is in competition. Thank you. Okay. Now it's time for our chalice lighting. The flame of our chalice this morning is a symbol of the warmth and brightness of our connections. It lights our way back together again from our separate lives and lights our way forward into community wherein there is promise and renewal. Enjoy.
Thank you, Barbara. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chloe Briede, and I'm the interim minister here at Pacific Unitarian Church. And it's lovely to be back with you all this morning. I'm really grateful to Angela O for speaking last week. I heard it was fantastic, so thank you, Angela. In honor of Palm Sunday this morning, this was the day where Jesus was returning to the city to praises and shouts of hallelujah, only to a few days later to be sent to his death. And I offer these words in honor of Palm Sunday from the Reverend Gretchen Haley. They bear witness to the common ways we are each called in simple and sometimes bold, in courageous ways, to walk towards paths of struggle and loss. All you can do is walk into Jerusalem with the hosannas ringing in your ears and the palms coming at you in every direction. When you are already remembering the bitter of what comes next, even then, all you have is the moving forward into the city and the call that says, you have been preparing for this your whole life. That every good thing will come undone does not make it all make-believe. And when the world turns upside down and lovers become strangers and thieves and betrayers turn out to be beloved, beside you in the dark, even when the palms turn to passion, and even then, you can still throw your arms open wide and turn forgiveness over and over on your tongue until it just falls out. And you find yourself empty of everything for a moment until the breath begins again, the rise and the fall. And the next morning comes, gloriously steady with life. In this spirit of call in the midst of chaos and faith in the midst of fear, we begin worship together. And we sing our opening hymn, number 347, Gather the Spirit.
Gather the Spirit, harvest the power, our separate fires will kindle one flame, witness the mystery of this hour.
Hi, I'm Jewel. I'm the Multicultural and Education Director. And I would like to call all our school-age children. And while they are on their way down, I just want to send love to some of our children that are very sick. We have a lot of kids that have some plagues going around. Hi, Kev. But I'm glad we got our Joynesses back now. Hi, Joynesses. Hi, new friend. Welcome. I love your pink hair. Welcome, Kevin, and your pink hair. All right. So, Alex, I'm going to have you sit up here so you can be my globe Vanna White person. Yes, she's going to do our globe. Okay. So today, we are going to talk about the communion of cycles between earth and sky. Who knows what communion is?
I know what communion is.
What? What is communion?
It's in like Catholic Church when you eat the representation of like the body of Christ, and I thought it was genuine for a long time. And you drink the wine, which is
Yeah, I
the
remember you
blood
guys
of
had
Christ.
communion. Okay. So before Catholic faith colonized that word, it meant like sacred sharing and exchange. Okay. So the communion, the exchange, the sacred connection between earth and sky. So that's what we're talking about today. So I put in this Elizabethan poet for Lisa. So I'm glad you're here. Okay, so Elizabethan poet and dramatist Thomas Nash certainly looked forward to spring in his own colorful sing-song way. In the 1700s, he wrote, "Spring indeed, sweet spring indeed, a time to observe the growing light, listen to the birds, smell the flowers, and feel the growing warmth from the sun." So spring, the sweet spring, is this year's pleasant king. Then blooms each thing, then maids dance in a ring. Cold doth not sting, the pretty birds do sing. So everything he talks about in the poem are all signs that spring has arrived. So spring is a time of rebirth after the long rest of winter. And trees start to bloom. Have you guys noticed the trees and the greenery getting lush all around us?
There's like puddles of pollen at my school, and it's all yellow and gross.
Yeah.
And like you can smell it, and it smells disgusting. Guys, I hate spring. Literally, it was so pretty, but for like 2 days, and then it's just everywhere.
So as life seems to burst open all around us in the form of yellow pollen and beauty and lushness, it's time for colorful celebrations and the harmonious balance between day and night that bring us warmer weather. So who knows what the official first day of spring is called? Yes.
Oh, the equinox.
Yes, say equinox. Okay, big word. So equinox comes from a Latin word that means equality. What does equality mean?
Everything's the same.
Equal, yeah. So equal between day and night. So the vernal equinox means same thing, spring equinox, vernal equinox, comes from the Latin word and means spring. So it marks the sun's crossing, so show where we are. Where are we? On the globe. Yeah, right there, okay. So it marks the sun's crossing above the Earth's equator, moving from south to north. So where's the equator? All right, so this year, spring equinox arrived exactly where we are on Monday, a couple days ago, on March 20th. So that's the official beginning of spring in the Northern Hemisphere. Where's Northern Hemisphere? So it's,
This half.
yeah, that part. So Northern Hemisphere. So spring arrived where we are in the Northern Hemisphere, and then it's fall in the Southern Hemisphere below the equator, right? So for people, okay, you're making me dizzy with the glow. Okay, so for people in like Chile and South America, where's South America? In Australia, they're having cooler weather like fall, like when it's Halloween. For us, how it's colder. So people who live close to the equator, it's kind of the same because they're always even. What?
It's hot all the time at the equator except for the equinox.
Yeah.
That's their winters.
Yeah. So it doesn't change for them because they stay kind of the same equal, right? As daytime and nighttime. So the Earth's axis is like an imaginary pole going right through the center of the Earth from top to bottom. And as the Earth spins around, it makes one complete turn each day. So the Earth has seasons because its axis doesn't stand up straight. It's actually tilted a little bit. There. So it's actually tilted a little bit as it turns. So to help us understand why changes happen to our plants and our weather, our friend Carolyn is going to join us up here to be the sun on our globe. So welcome the sun, celebrating our spring sun. So Carolyn is our sun, and you guys are going to be the earth on its axis. So everybody stand up and put your arms together and straight up above your heads, lean your body in the crescent. Everybody face this way. Okay, face the audience. All right. Okay, so lean your body in the crescent moon pose away from Carolyn the sun. All right, so you see how you're further away from the warmth of this beautiful sun? So that's like when it's winter. In the northern hemisphere, it tilts away from the sun and brings us colder. So you don't feel the warmth of her warm, wonderful sun. So put your arms over your head, straight up, and lean to the side toward the sun in the crescent moon pose. Yes. Okay, since you're leaning closer to the warmth of the sun, of Carolyn's sun, this is like summer when the northern hemisphere tilts on its axis towards the sun and makes us warm. So go straight up tall, putting your arms straight over your head in mountain pose. This is like spring when the sunlight once again hits the earth evenly and provides this milder weather so it isn't too hot or too cold as it was in the other seasons. So you get it? Okay, so does anybody know what a sun salute is? Okay, so real quick, since you're already standing. So one of the teachings in yoga practice is a sun salutation. So we say, thanks to the sun being this glowing ball of fire for all it does for our planet. And so we say thank you to the earth, touch the earth with our two hands on the floor. Thank you, earth. Thank you, sun. All right. Go ahead and sing us out. Come on, guys. Oh, take a look. Oh.
Okay, now it is the time for our candles of joys and sorrows. You are invited to come up and light a candle for a brief personal announcement and tell us your joys and your sorrows. Thank you.
final candle for all the joys and sorrows that remain in our hearts, but yet unspoken. If you would join me in the spirit of prayer, taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Let's do that again together. A deep breath in and a deep breath out. You're welcome to close your eyes. Excuse me. You're welcome to close your eyes if you'd like, or perhaps lower your gaze. This is a prayer from the Reverend Karen Johnson. Let the spirit of meditation, of prayer, of reflection, of connection to that yearning inside you for something larger than yourself be your company, moving you to sound or stillness, as is your comfort and tradition. And I ring this bell to mark our space together. Let us slow into this space. Let us slow into this moment. Let us slow into our bodies. Let us find our breath. Let our breath find us. Our breath in, however it is your body allows. Your breath out, however it is your body allows. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe to connect to self. Breathe to connect to the earth. Breathe to connect to the all that is. This connection may bring pain, for the world is crying out. War, legislated hate, violence, misery, inequality, and betrayal. May we remember that our pain is not the enemy to our joy. Pain is not the enemy to our happiness, but the pathway through it. The way out is through. When the world is on fire, when there is war in foreign lands, waking within us fear or anger or sadness, when someone we care for is struggling, when strangers are treated as less than, that we feel pain is a reminder that there is no separation. That we feel pain is a signal of our interconnectedness. That we feel pain alerts us to the presence of and our participation in the interdependent web of all existence. It is this same connection that allows us to feel renewed in surprising ways when we take in natural beauty or behold art that breaks our heart open, or create art that moves our hearts for others. When we generate grace for others, even when we don't seem to have earned it. When we generate grace for ourselves, even when we don't seem to have earned it. When we move our bodies, however these bodies move, whatever our shape or size, for all are miracles. It is this same connection that allows us to feel emboldened by the love shown to us by others, affirmed in our worthiness, so that we might pass on that same courage to others in need of our loving witness. It is this same connection that is fuel, fire, food, propelling us to truth-telling even when it seems the risks are too high, propelling us to love more boldly even when it seems the sacrifices are dear, propelling us to show up even when we don't know what we're supposed to do. Having found our breath, let us breathe. Having found our breath, breathe us. Breathing in, breathing out, connecting to self, to the earth, connecting to the all that is. And now let us share a moment of stillness as our hearts pray the prayer they only know. And we'll have that stillness until we hear the chime again.
I was asked to say, why do I pledge to the Pacific Unitarian Universalist Church? It's been a long way for me. I've been attached to church all of my life. It was a Methodist church for the most part. But as an agnostic, this placed me in a world of the social gospel of Christ, and it helped to make me a better person along with other persons who believe the same thing. My sister was a Unitarian up in Central California, and so anytime I would go to visit her, she would say, "Come with me to the Unitarian church," and I would say yes or no. But one time, of course, there was a sermon based on fly fishing in the Sierra, and so if you know me, I couldn't say no, and I went. Later, Diane, my wife, and Kelly's mother decided we would try a Unitarian church in Santa Monica, and it was fine, but it just didn't seem inclusive to us at the time, and so we let it go. Years later, following Diane's death, I decided it was time to try again. Basically, at my age, now or never. And I found this church, and I was welcomed initially by Reverend Steve. Choir and the lunch tables out there made me feel included. I met new people. It was a new adventure surrounded by people who thought and acted a little bit more like me. At one point early on, with Gary and Steve, I was allowed to underwrite a flute concert by Johanna Borenstein. And after one visit, she said, "This is where you belong." And I agree. I have lived a life among diverse friends and culture, and this church was trying to be more inclusive. Reverend Steve brought in many different speakers. This was appealing to me. I went with him and others to Adelanto, a prison for immigrants. It was educational for me. We now make lunches and deliver them. This puts our religion in practice. This church, based on the 7 principles, is a voice for sanity in this crazy world. I was very sad to see Steve leave, but with Chloe's coming and support, it has been very good for me. I look forward to our future. I can and do support many causes, from LA Mission to Doctors Without Borders, even to fly fishing with cow trout. This church community is so important to me. I have to support this church. I hope you will pledge and do the same.
Well, to echo a little bit of what Steve said, we're going to do a song that talks about the strength of this community. One of the reasons it's so strong is the diversity of beliefs. And the song talks a little bit about that. But the main focus of this song is no matter what you believe in, it's up to us. If we're going to keep this church going, we have to pledge, we have to give, we have to work. It's up to us. That happens to be the name of the song.
And he's the composer.
And he wrote it too. Yes, he did.
That was before I had a puppy. Some say Jesus walked on water. Some say Noah built an ark. Some say Buddha had a great tree. Some say the tablets were God's mark. It's up to us. Up to us.
Responsibility. It's up to us.
that was beautiful. Thank you. In the Palm Sunday narrative, Jesus triumphantly enters into Jerusalem on the back of a donkey. He is the Prince of Peace. The donkey symbolizes peace. Rather than riding in on a horse, which would have meant war, he rides in on a donkey. The narrative talks of wonder and awe, people asking, "Who is this?" And others answering, "The prophet has come." But there also has to have been some knowledge there, some foreboding. Jesus knows he's going to his death. The festive march of Jesus on a donkey with palms waving around him and shouts of Hosanna had to have been somewhat muted for him, I think. He was in danger. In less than a week, he would find himself sentenced to death by crucifixion. Even if Jesus couldn't foretell the future, he must have at least known his life was at risk. The reading that we heard as our opening talks of the courage it takes to walk into the face of death, to walk towards death in the interest of peace. Jesus was seeking peace. He was doing the brave, right thing, even knowing the consequences would be dire. I can't help but think Palm Sunday isn't just about celebration or about the return of the Prince of Peace, but about courage. Not all courage, though, is of mythical proportion. In our everyday lives, we don't stare down death in the face like Jesus did, and we don't slay dragons like we read about in fantasy novels, or even slay alien invaders like we see in fantasy novels. Even if we look at Hindu mythology, in our daily life, we also aren't facing a 10-headed demon on a normal basis. Instead, courage comes out in how we live our values in the world. Recently, I've been reading about activism around caste in America. Caste is the Hindu system of placing people in a social hierarchy with religious implications, with some people at the top as pure and able to access religious knowledge, and some in the middle and on the bottom. And this also has implications in the society in terms of how people can get employment and how they're treated in India and in other South Asian countries. In her book, The Trauma of Caste, Thanmozi Soundararajan describes how systems of caste have followed migrants as they have come to the United States. Soundararajan was born in the United States, and she recounts learning about caste as a young girl after her mother revealed to her that her family was untouchables, or Dalits is what they call them in India, Dalits. Upon further thought, she pieced together how her parents conducted themselves in America, often hiding their last name from others in the Indian and South Asian community, instead leaning on education and nicknames. Because their last name might give them away, her father referred to himself as Dr. Raj rather than using his last name. She also saw how other South Asian children and adults related to her as they found out about her caste status. Even as a little girl, she was given separate plates of snacks by her friends' parents because they viewed her as unclean. This was in America, by the way. Soundararajan now runs an NGO that advocates for the end of violence and oppression towards Dalits and studies the experiences of Dalits in the diaspora, migrants and children of migrants in the United States. In her book, she tells the story of Prem Paryar, a Dalit asylum seeker from Nepal. Paryar has been an advocate for Dalit rights in Nepal. He had been an advocate for Dalit rights in Nepal, and his outspokenness had gotten him in trouble. He was persecuted by dominant caste individuals, and he fled Nepal. Paryar came here to California. In Nepal, he had been a social worker and found work in California at a restaurant. When he had to share an apartment with other Nepali immigrants, he was barred from sharing a bedroom with those from the dominant caste. Paryar eventually became a master's student in social work at California State University, East Bay. Hoping to escape the caste system on campus, he was sad to find that hate was still present. Dominant caste Nepali students avoided Paryar and even blocked his attempts to host a conference on campus about Dalit rights. Other Dalit students he talked to reported similar things. Some heard the equivalent of racial slurs on a regular basis, and others had trouble getting accesses to resources to do their work. The discrimination he had felt at home had followed him to America. Paryar, along with a national coalition of other activists, and he started really in the department of his university and then his school, they started to advocate for Dalit rights. And then it even reached the entire CSU, the entire California State University system. He was pushing to make caste a part of the official non-discrimination policy at CSU. And his work was successful. It bare fruit. In 2022, just this last year, the entire CSU system added caste to its non-discrimination policy, and that was exclusively because of his work. Soon after, the faculty union at CSU advocated for the same thing, protecting lower caste faculty and staff from discrimination. And I heard Rachel cheering, I think, a little bit, and I think you should cheer because CSU did this, and a lot of you, I think, from my knowing, are CSU alumni or have been faculty or students at CSU. And this was one of the first policies of its kind at a large university system. Protections around caste only started being included at colleges and universities in their policies. It only started in 2019 with Brandeis in Boston. So this work was really, really new, and Paryar was actually the one who started it. I speak of courage today, and I can firmly say that Paryar has courage. Can you imagine coming to America and thinking you were going to get a better life and seeing the same oppression and discrimination that you saw in Nepal and deciding that the cost and risk of it was worth it, that he would continue to do something? It takes extraordinary courage to face such a fight. I can't imagine how uncomfortable, how afraid he might have been starting this yet again in America. And I'm also saddened by it. I want to believe that in coming to the United States, his life would have been better, and it's sad to think that he had to do it all over again. And here in California, the fight is still ongoing for caste to be included in these policies, for Dalit rights. A group of professors from the CSU system are suing to remove caste from that non-discrimination policy. And they're using some of the same tactics we may have been familiar with from men's rights groups and anti-trans groups. They're even going as far as saying that they're the victims in this fight. And it's wild how this narrative of victimization has been twisted to benefit the dominant culture and the dominant class. There is some good news, though, and there's also activism at the state level, and I think that's really great. A recently elected South Asian state representative, Aisha Wahab from Hayward, California, is fighting to add caste as a protected category to California's anti-discrimination laws. She wants to ensure that Dalits in the state of California are protected from employment, education, and even housing discrimination. Her bill in the Senate was just introduced this February, and it sort of remains to be seen what kind of traction we'll get in the legislature. But I ask you to sort of pay attention to it as you see it in the news. Maya Angelou says that courage is the most important of all virtues because without courage, you can't practice any other virtue consistently. This is a lesson I've learned over time. Courage often means overcoming discomfort, being willing to be vulnerable in the hope that we might improve the world or do the right thing. Overcoming discomfort in order to live our deepest values, to be good people, and to do what is right. For me, this has meant learning to speak up, to voice my opinions, to be brave, because choosing bravery and courage now can actually make things better in the long run. When did you learn this lesson? Courage now can prevent heartbreak later. I spent a lot of my life as a safety-oriented person. If you're familiar with the personality test, the Enneagram, I am an Enneagram 6, which is the safety and security type. We like things safe and secure. And as a child, I would never jump off a curb or the stairs. I would be the one who would turn around really slowly and back off the stairs. I really didn't want to fall. And it also meant that my first instincts in life are often to be scared and not at all courageous. Being courageous or brave can mean some level of discomfort. It means being vulnerable to the unknown. The psychologist Brené Brown, who I quote often, you'll hear about her from me a lot, says courage is a heart word. The root of the word courage is cor, the Latin word for heart. In one of its earliest forms, the word courage meant to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart. Over time, this definition has changed, she says, and today we typically associate courage with heroic and brave deeds. But in my opinion, this definition fails to recognize the inner strength and level of commitment required for us to actually speak honestly and openly about who we are and about our experiences, good and bad. Speaking from our heart is what I think of as ordinary courage, she says. Paryar was definitely speaking from his heart when he said he didn't want caste discrimination to be a part of his American experience. For me, courage has meant having difficult and uncomfortable conversations. It was coming out to my parents one night in the car as we drove to a New Year's Eve party, speaking up despite the shaking in my voice to say that I was in a relationship with another woman. At the time, I was so deeply in love with my first girlfriend that I knew I needed to speak what was on my heart. Coming out to my parents in the end was freeing. I could show the full me. Other times, courage has been smaller. Telling a friend I'm mad at them, or speaking up when someone says something hurtful or does something that makes me uncomfortable. For me, courage meant attending a Black Lives Matter protest in the thick of the pandemic, leaving the safety of my apartment in Boston to march at a crucial moment in history, to march when things felt unsafe, knowing that a wrong had happened, that George Floyd had been heartlessly murdered, and we had to speak up about it. Flooding a large park in Boston, we took to the streets with thousands upon thousands of people crying out for justice and an end to police violence. Beloveds, I have grown in my courage. From a scared child backing down the stairs so many years ago, trying not to fall, to someone willing to have difficult conversations and take to the streets in protest. How have you grown in your courage? How have you stood up for your values? When have you pushed past discomfort to speak truth, to speak your truth? How do you continue to act with courage? Perhaps it's speaking out against an injustice like Pariyar, or telling someone you love a hard truth. Perhaps it's admitting a wrong, or even telling someone you love them. I'll remind you of Brené Brown here again. She says, courage is to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart. How can you do that more? May you have courage, my friends, to speak your heart to injustice and to wrong, to speak about love and light that makes your heart sing, to speak of your deepest held beliefs and morals, even in the face of discomfort. May it be so. Amen.
That brought a few tears to my eyes. All right, it's now time for our offertory. Passing the offertory plate is not just a practical exercise, it's a ritual. Even when your pledge is paid up, it is worthwhile for us to bring even just $1 to drop into the plate as a ritual reminder of the form of love we call generosity. Let us put our money where our hearts are.
Nothing but blue skies, singing a song, nothing but bluebirds all day long. Never saw the sun shining so bright, never saw things going so right. Noticing the days hurrying by, when you're in love, my other flies, blue days, all of them gone.
Now it's time for our affirmation of gratitude. And I believe it'll be up on the screen. The generosity of others.
And now we sing together our closing hymn, I Know I Can. So you're invited to rise as you're willing and able to sing with us.
Days be dark with storms, and burdens weigh my heart. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. Sorrow heals my soul, and burdens make me strong. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. My sister in my heart, my brother in my song. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. And though the journey is long, the destination is near. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. So brother, take my hand, and sister, sing my song. When hope awaits at every turn, I know I can, we will go on.
Thank you so much, Abraham. This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences, beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity.
May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts, now and forevermore. So be it. Amen. Shalom, salam, namaste, and blessed be. And now our service truly begins. And right before our postlude, we will have an announcement from the board after our postlude, so stick around for just a couple of minutes after Abraham sings. So thank y'all.
occhi miei. Chimera, gloria e vanto, or per le mute stanze sempre la cerco e chiamo, con pieno il cor di speranze, ma cerco invan, chiamo invan, e il pianger me si caro, che di pianto sol nutro il cor. Mi sembra senza lei triste ogni loco, notte mi sembra il giorno, mi sembra gelo il fuoco, se pur talvolta spero di darmi ad altra cura, sol mi tormenta un pensiero, ma senza lei che farò? Mi par così la vita, vana cosa, senza il mio ben.
As I said, stick around for a quick board announcement. And Kelly, oh, here we go. Great. So I have my microphone back, and Frank's our treasurer and Robin's our president. So Frank has a quick announcement for y'all.
Good morning. Good morning. The Stewardship Committee asked me to comment on how the pledge drive impacts our budget and makes it possible for us to keep our church operating. The budget for our next fiscal year will, starting in July, will pose particular challenges. These will be the result of some increased new expenses, including a search for a settled minister, the impact of inflation on all the goods and services we purchase, increases in funding for religious education, increases in the cost of insurance, and several others. We've looked very critically at the expenditures for that fiscal year, and a conservative estimate of what we're looking at in expenditures for that year is $440,000. We do have sources of revenue other than the pledge, including our PSP, our school, events that are hosted by Lynn Taylor, our own PUC events, and our church plate donations. Those will projectedly run out to about $170,000 a year. So if you take our expenses of $440,000 a year and subtract that $170,000 revenue from other places, the number comes out to be $270,000, which not coincidentally is our pledge goal. Right now, we have pledges totaling $174,000. So everything we can do now to close the gap between where we are and our goal is crucial in helping us to avoid a very large deficit or what could be very painful cuts in our budget. And thanks to Gary for putting it so perfectly, it truly is up to us. I'll let Robin say a few words.
Thank you, Frank. Frank is amazing. So, I promised Frank that I wouldn't cry, but now that I'm looking at all of you, I'm just smiling, sorry, and especially after the music. But yeah, I am extremely worried because, as you know, math, $100,000 shy right now. And that's a lot of our programming. So, anything that you can do to increase. And I also wanted to say, for the people who are newer, that pledging means that this is the amount that you intend to give between July 1st of this coming year and July 1st of next year. So it's stating your intention. I did get a number of questions about that. So anything that you can do, I already increased my pledge when I saw that we were significantly short. We'd really appreciate, and I'm very worried. Okay, well, enjoy your lunch. A lunch is on the house today, and that was mentioned.
Thank you, everyone, and let's go eat. I also heard rumors of some mac and cheese, maybe gluten-free mac and cheese, some stuff to be excited about, so go have lunch.